Phase 4 is coming, but this is the single best time to farm. And if you invest wisely, you could be 10xing all the gold you farm by the time the phase drops. So if you want your Thunder Fury, your Arcanite Reaper, your Lionheart Helm, your End of Ragnaros, there's never going to be a better time to farm them than right now. So we're going to be counting down the best Phase 4 prep gold farms. And like we're dining at some kind of fancy gold farming restaurant, I'm going to be pairing each of them with a matching investment. And these are going to be based on your Reddit posts and your YouTube comments. But I'm also going to be putting my own money on these investments so we can track and see how they perform when the phase hits. So starting with number 5, we have the lottery ticket. Located in the northeast corner of Silithus is one of the highest gambling, highest potential gold farms in history. I'm not talking about death rolling the Twilight cultists. I'm talking about killing the elites for not only free Cenarian Circle reputation, but also a chance at Eternium lockboxes. That is the lockbox typically dropped by raid elites in Phase 4. Alongside the greens and blues, there are 2 items in these lockboxes that have extreme value. The first of these items is the 4 stats chest enchant. World first raiders would kill for that enchant right now. If you're lucky enough to get it, you could bank thousands of gold per day until the phase hits. But the real reason to farm Eternium lockboxes is for the even rarer item, the Lionheart Helm recipe. That is the recipe that leads to the Lionheart Helm, which is going to be extremely desirable for all plate wearers. If you've got that recipe day 1 of Phase 4, people are going to be lining up around the block to give you gold cap to pay for it. As an alternative to the cultists if they get too crowded, you can also farm the lockboxes from the Stone Guardians in Ungoro. So speaking of Guardians, the perfect investment to go into Phase 4 is Guardian Stones. Several of the new crafted recipes on the PTR are going to be using these Guardian Stones. They're going to be a nightmare to farm in Phase 4, so a very solid investment to make now. At number 4, we have the boring gold farm. So incursions are really the answer to all your gold problems heading into Phase 4. They are also extremely unappealing to many players. But 80 to 100 gold an hour is very hard to beat. And if you just did 3 hours of incursions a week for the next 4 weeks, that would be enough to pay for your epic mount so nobody makes fun of you going to the raids. To ensure that you optimally run in a circle to maximize your gold, don't forget the Nightmare Incursion Helper add-on. And if you happen to be in the Feralis Incursion, don't forget to kill the Giant. He drops the Pet Stone, which is rapidly becoming one of the most desirable items in the game. The Pet Stone has collision, so it can block the auction house, or you can climb infinitely so you can play some really sketchy summoners on the top of Blackrock Mountain for the PvP event. So with this boring gold farm comes a nice boring and safe investment. That investment is Elemental Fire. The primary use of Elemental Fire is the Greater Fire Protection Potions. Prices historically skyrocketed when Blackwing Lair came out, but with the new difficulty modes in Molten Core, everybody's going to want these potions in the beginning of Phase 4. They're boring, but they're reliable. At number 3, we have the long play. So Eye of Shadow is really good to farm right now, because not only do you have the whole area to yourself, but you also will be able to take advantage of those top guild priests that want to get benediction for day 1. Having a fully geared out squad of priests for day 1 is going to make a huge difference for the new Molten Core difficulty modes. But there are 2 risks here, because number 1, you have to wait until the phase hits for people to actually buy the eyes. The other problem is that in Phase 4, Kha'Zix will be instanced. That means there are going to be more eyes generated in the game than there normally would be. Still, this is one of my favorite gold makers. You can do it with 5 to 8 players, or you could even just solo as a hunter if you want to. Because Eye of Shadow is almost like an investment, it's such a long-term play, I brought in the king of long-term plays, Solheim. He's going to help us with his biggest investment, which might just pay off in Phase 4.
The biggest investment that I have is one that I have been calling for a couple of phases now, and it's golden pearls. So first of all, we have supply and demand. So we can talk about supply first. When people are leveling their main characters to level 50, for example, people just naturally found a bunch of these pearls, and they literally have no demand right now. The only demand they have is people thinking ahead, or people speculating on the demand in the future and then buying them now for that increased demand. And later on that's going to shift. Less people are going to be doing stuff in the open world. At level 60, for example, they're going to raid log. Simply the demand goes up by us being able to use the golden pearls, and the supply goes down because people play the game less.
At number 2, we have the Now or Never. There are some items in the game that get much easier to farm as we get further into different phases. But there are other items like the Crusader enchant that only get harder to farm. The only place to farm the Crusader recipe is in that tiny little tower in Eastern Plaguelands, and you can only expect one recipe about every 3 hours. To make matters worse, there's really only enough room for one group to be farming at any given time. Since half the server is going to be here when the phase launches, this is really the single best time to get out there and get your Crusader recipe. To pair with that Crusader farm though, we need a Now or Never investment. For that investment, we have Devilsar leather. Every leather wearer wanted Devilsar back in Classic for their Prebis legs and their gloves. But with the new recipes coming in Phase 4, the leather is going to be even rarer and more expensive than before. And Phase 3 is the single deadest time that Un'Goro is ever going to be for the rest of the game. That means the leathers are the easiest to farm and cheapest they'll be for a very, very long time. At number 1, we have the Lazy. The true number 1 gold maker going into Phase 4 is transmuting arcane crystals into Arcanite bars. Arcanite bars are going to be used in the new crafting recipes that Blizzard just announced, and they've also got a huge role in key items like Thunder Fury and the extremely desirable Hand of Ragnaros. Since every single Season of Discovery player is going to want some kind of epic to show off, the Arcanite bars are going to be a really big bottleneck. The idea is to get your alchemy to 275 for the transmute, and to also do the Transmute Mastery quest in Tanaris. Then every single day you can transmute an arcane crystal into bars. The reason this is the best gold maker is that it's the most scalable gold maker, and that means you could technically have, say, 10 alchemy alts all transmuting at the same time. The only word of caution is that nobody's buying the Arcanite bars yet, but they really will be big time in Phase 4. So the perfect investment to go with our lazy gold making method is grilled squid. So as of now, there still isn't any replacement food for grilled squid, and it's still a best-in-slot food for classes like hunters. The winter squid won't be fishable again until around September 22nd, and that means every single day the supply of squid is just going to go down. I bought a bunch of squid a few weeks ago, and every single day it just goes up a little bit in price, and that is the laziest investment you can possibly make. The only big concern is that Blizzard might add some new recipes that replace the grilled squid, but since we'll be able to fish it pretty soon anyways, that might not happen. So we've been on a gold making journey, an investing journey, through the 5 investments and the 5 gold makers you should definitely be doing before Phase 4. My only question with all these different methods is which method you're going to choose to maximize your gold so you can get all the things you want in Phase 4. Thanks so much for watching, make sure to subscribe, and then check out my ultimate winners and losers of Phase 4 video for Season of Discovery. Click the screen now.